Lummis hails from the great state of Wyoming, and there are many folks here representing Wyoming today. We want to thank you for the years of hard work that you have done in our space and your incredible team. So first of all, thank you. But we're going to get right down to business, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about American digital innovation in its many forms. And what we have in this room are very senior digital leaders who are builders. Some of them are focusing on technical, some of them are focusing on services, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's how do we make sure that America leads in this space? So when you think about the US winning, and when it comes to digital asset regulation, how critical market infrastructure legislation is to advancing American leadership, what are the sorts of things that you'd like to impart to us?
Well, certainly, the United States, in order to win, has to have the clearest legislative framework, the clearest rules, the most well-understood regulatory environment that is friendly to this technology, that acknowledges that this is a different technology. You can't always pound a round peg in a square hole, and that we have to acknowledge the importance of this as a rising global phenomenon. So the U.S. has been too slow to adopt a clear regulatory framework.
You got a lot of nodding heads in the room. They agree with you. That's right.
And it's been particularly true with regard to deferring to some of the regulatory agencies here in the U.S. who have used the courts and enforcement actions in lieu of a clear regulatory framework to define their relationship with this industry. And that's a hostile relationship. Why would we want a hostile relationship when we want the United States to be the clear global leader in digital assets? And so this week was a game changer.
That's right.
In the United States Congress.
You have so many smiling faces here. I have to tell you, it's kind of lovely to sit up here looking at all these smiling faces, because usually I used to see frowns, but we got a lot of happy folks. Thank you so much for all of that. If I may, let's turn to what private sector is doing. And what do you think private sector could do, because there's quite a few leaders in the space here, to help with these critical pieces of legislation? What would make your life more helpful? What would be helpful to your amazing team?
Well, thanks for asking that question, because there's a lot you can do. What we find in Congress is frequently still there are members of Congress who don't understand how embedded this industry is, how robust it is, how strong it is, how globally influential it is, and how many just regular people all over the world
That's right.
are already engaged and involved with digital assets, because we live in our own unique bubble here in this town that doesn't necessarily give us the intellectual curiosity to just reach out and find options that allow us to save in ways that don't further decline, such as the US dollar. So there are alternatives that are a better store of value, and individuals know that, companies know that. So here's what we need. We need your constant willingness to educate members of Congress and their staff about the use case. If I've heard it once, I've heard it dozens of times. I'll go in and start visiting with a member of Congress, a US senator about this, and they'll say, well, I don't understand the use case.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, and so the people who have invented and deployed the use case are the best people to convince members of the Senate and House of the utility, the rigor, the robustness of this asset class. So I strongly encourage you to reach out and tell your story. Also, it's very helpful, and it's why organizations such as yours are important. If to the extent that you can, when it comes to creating statutes and regulatory frameworks if you can speak with one voice or close to one voice, and then learn how to compete within the parameters that you work together to create for a regulatory environment that has some flexibility to it, a statutory environment that has some flexibility to it. That's really helpful to us because it is those use cases, those specific examples of how this asset is being used around the world, and particularly in this country,
yes,
that make the case for a regulatory framework, a statutory framework.
And you raise an excellent point about speaking with one voice. And as you know, this industry, if I can even call it that, has a lot of different voices. And I think we're getting better at it.
Yes, you are.
But we gotta keep working. So let's get on the same page as much as we can, and then also speak to our Congress folks in different offices across both the Senate and the House.
Yeah, and might I add, now is the time. You know, I've been working in this for 4.5 years in the Senate. Just this week, the House committee two House committees reported out digital asset legislation. House Ag reported out the CFTC portion.
That's right.
House Financial Services reported out the SEC portion. And on the Senate side, as you know, we're in the middle of voting on the stablecoin legislation. So for the first time in 4.5 years of not having the momentum that we needed to get this going, we have it. And so we're making laws now, even as we speak. So this is the exact time for you to look at what's going through the system. Know that it can still be tweaked, changes can be made that will make your ability to do your jobs easier while still providing adequate consumer protection.
Dear leaders of various organizations, I have good news for you. This is the time, as per Senator Lummis. Now it means get to work. Not the time to step back. It's lean in time, right? It's put the foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, it's definitely lean in time. And I want to point out some staffers of mine in the room, but that have been instrumental in crafting this legislation. Chris Land, would you raise your hand? And
go, Chris! Woo!
So call Chris Land. I know that is making Chris's life more difficult, but at the same time it makes it easier because we are trying now, right now, to craft the legislation that is going to be fundamental to the way you relate with federal regulatory agencies. And Chris has been right in the thick of us. He and I, we got the stablecoin legislation out of the Senate Banking Committee with a pretty robust vote. And in a naive approach to legislating, I was thinking we could take that bill to the floor and start working it.
Right.
But there were tremendous amendments that we were inundated with.
Yes.
Between when it came out of committee and today. And both Chris and I have spent just an obscene number of hours, especially Chris, working with the changes that were requested, mostly by Democrats, but a few Republicans as well, in order to allow them a comfort level to move forward with a vote. Now, we did have a pretty robust vote. We had, I think, we only lost 2 Republicans, and we got 19 Democrats. 19, which for us is really good because there's been a bit of a reluctance that I don't quite understand because I have more of a business mind than I don't understand.
It was 68-30, right?
Yeah, it was fabulous.
It's
The vote,
fantastic.
it was fantastic. And there's still going to be some machinations we have to go through to get it
Sure.
across the finish line, but we are. We know we're going to get it across the finish line. That said, at some point soon, the House bills and the Senate bill are going to coalesce and converge. And so there will be other tweaking, other changes that can occur in order to get finished products. But I'm encouraged that we will have market structure and stablecoin legislation before the end of the year. Finally.
Well, it has taken multi-level years of effort, but sometimes, you know, it's like what they say, when it rains, it pours, and right now the momentum absolutely is now. May I take a moment and move over to another piece of legislation that you have introduced, particularly with respect to the Bitcoin Act? And would love if you could speak a bit about establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the U.S. We know a lot of other countries are doing that. Where are we with that right now?
Well, that's a bill that I introduced that needs some time to percolate. Because there are still members of the U.S. House and Senate who don't know the difference between Bitcoin and any other digital asset. So there's a lot of people who still think that Bitcoin is to Kleenex that digital assets are to tissues. You know, they just don't know the difference. And the fact that Bitcoin is an established store of value and soon to be a means of exchange has a history of outperforming other assets. It has the characteristics of digital gold. At a time when the United States currency is being debased, Bitcoin is growing in its value and its ability to protect the hard earnings of people who have devoted hours of their life working to earn compensation. So when I started in the Congress, 2009, I was in the House for 8 years. And when the U.S. national debt had just turned from 9 trillion to 10 trillion at that time. And now here we are at $38 trillion in national debt. I'm embarrassed as a baby boomer. I don't want to pass that kind of debt on to the next generation and the next. So our appetite for constraint is almost zero. You've seen it over the last years. The Congress talks a good game and never bends the spending curve. And although we're still trying to do that, and we have to still try to do that, the Bitcoin Act offers an alternative that I have not found anywhere else. And that is, if we would acquire 5% of all the Bitcoin, which is roughly 1 million Bitcoin, and hold it for 20 years, we know through economic modeling that it would cut the national debt in half. So all we have to do is hold it for 20 years, and then it could be sold to really make a dent in the national debt. It would have a variety of holding vaults, so it wouldn't all be in one place. We could use the asset forfeiture funds as the first $200,000.
Right, because
and then build on that.
We currently hold quite a bit of Bitcoin already right now through that.
And we're still trying to find out how much Bitcoin we actually hold. That's been a bit of a mystery, not only to us, but the folks at the White House who are working on the president's crypto team.
Senator Lummis, we have a lot of folks in the room who work on crypto asset seizures. We should probably help out and figure that out sooner than later, yeah?
We would welcome your input. Chris Land, would you raise your hand once again? There's Chris Land. And he doesn't sleep, so it's The exciting thing also about having a strategic Bitcoin reserve is we are seeing other countries and states adopting this. Texas, Arizona, New Hampshire passed legislation to have strategic Bitcoin reserves. The United Arab Emirates is looking at it. Other countries are as well. So it will become, I believe, a store of value for that the globe holds in common, like digital gold, which in fact its characteristics prove that it is.
Well, thank you so much for that, and we'll have to see how it evolves, because as you said, there's probably some education and some explaining that needs to happen, work its way through the hill. In our last few minutes together, I would like to touch upon the great state of Wyoming, and we love a great backstory. I call it a crypto OG state, because frankly, there were a lot of firsts coming out of Wyoming.
Yeah.
You and I mean all Wyoming folks who are in the room, have pioneered some of the earliest laws, some of the earliest use cases, and I know we've got the Wyoming Stable Token Commission represented here. Multiple folks are here, and they'll be speaking later this afternoon. What makes Wyoming so special? I mean, I've been there. I see definitely there's an energy there, but in your words, in your experience, what makes Wyoming so special? And how can other states learn?
Well, Wyoming has always been a risk-taking state. The oil and gas business is a bunch of risk takers, a bunch of wildcatters, and that wildcat mentality sort of spreads into other areas of our economy. And our culture has been very associated with firsts. Wyoming was the first government in the world to continuously grant women the right to vote. We had the first woman governor, first woman bailiff, first woman grand juror, first woman state elected official.
How many people knew that? Probably not, right? You learned something today. All right.
We were also the state that created the limited liability company. And now we are the state that first adopted the special purpose depository institution.
That's right.
Which would allow custodians a specially designed business entity around which rigorous regulation and robust bank examination type exercises can occur to assure the rigor and strength of these institutions, but that also discard some of the things that just don't apply to digital assets. So Wyoming's SPDI is struggling to gain recognition, unfortunately is struggling through the courts to gain recognition, but we're making progress there. And we're trying to embed some approval for its use in the statutory legislation we're working on here. It's hard because the notion of states innovating, for some reason, Washington missed the memo on that. Wyoming, Nebraska, and Connecticut are three states that have pretty robust and rigorous regulatory mechanisms embedded to ensure that the use of an SPDI type business entity is ready for prime time. And certainly the dual banking system recognizes that states have an important role when it comes to regulating financial assets. So they serve both the small states and the big states. So we're hopeful that that mechanism can become extremely useful over time. And you know, states really are the innovators. And we've seen it throughout the years where states innovate and then the federal government adopts. And we've struggled for the federal government to adopt in this area, but we're going to keep working on it.
And that's right. You make an excellent point that some of the states have actually moved forward, well, Wyoming leading, but many other states have now leaned forward, and we have many states reps here from our U.S. Blockchain Coalition states efforts who are pushing their states to move forward. They're not waiting around for federal, so, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in Wyoming and New York, I think part of the reason that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and I, who have been partnering on this topic for many years, have found this kind of rock-solid partnership, even though our politics is quite different in other areas, is that our states have robust state regulators, and we have confidence in our states, and that has allowed us to go forward on a bipartisan basis to help advance our state's ability already embedded in our states to regulate in this space. And we understand that there are already use cases that are using our states to make this a more useful, whether you're doing custody or lending or other aspects of digital asset participation, ETFs, you name it. The states are prepared for this, some of them. And if they're not prepared, they don't need to participate. This is a choice that states can make. And as you know, most of the banks are state chartered, not federally chartered.
Yes, that's right.
And so there's already a history of the states being incubators of innovation when it comes to financial services. And I think that's part of the reason that Senator Gillibrand, with whom I can't say enough good things about her, she has been a rock-solid partner. She has been the one who has kept this bipartisan. We have not allowed an inch of difference to come between us on this issue. And it's part of the reason that it's moving.
Yeah,
certainly in the
right.
Senate, is this coalition of strange bed partners. And so next time you see Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, please give her a shout out. Tell her you're proud of her and happy with her work.
Oh, that's amazing. And what a wonderful way to end our conversation today. We know you're incredibly busy. We know your staff and Chris Land are very busy, but the time that you've taken to spend a bit of giving us some of your thoughts and views, it's a privilege. Thank you so much. And to hear that you've got a partnership with, as you say, not a likely bedfellow on this topic has made all the difference, and frankly should be a model for other things going forward, right? Finding that common ground and then working together. So thank you very much. Guys, a big applause for Senator Lummis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.